Welcome back to the program. So, yes, that was an awesome opportunity to do an interview on Sky News Australia. I think they're ranked number 25 biggest news organizations out there. So, they have a lot of viewers, pretty big reach, not just Australia, all around, obviously, the United States. They're big in Europe as well. So, really excited for that opportunity. It was a lot of fun. Didn't really know what I was going to be asked, and quite frankly, I enjoy that because I always say you shouldn't be on television if you can't answer questions about any topic. And so it was a lot of fun. It was good, and I did get some positive feedback from the interview. And, fingers crossed, hopefully I get a whole bunch more opportunities to go back on. I let the producers know that I am available pretty much anytime. Night, evenings, day, whatever, weekends. Someone cancels and, they need a replacement right away. No problem. All I need is 30 minutes worth of notice and an article about what you want to talk about. And by the time I get on the air, I'll be an expert on whatever it is that we're discussing. So it was a really good opportunity. And I hope that maybe eventually it'll turn into a paid contributorship. I mean, that would be the ultimate goal. That would certainly be great for my career, and we'll see what happens. But what I want to talk about today is when the terrorists, and the Islamists and all these people, the Palestinians in particular, when they love their children more than they hate Israel and Jews, then and only then can there be peace. And that was a paraphrase of something that the great Golda Meir once said. Now, what would an 88-year-old woman who was just burned with Molotov cocktails have to say publicly about not only what happened, but more importantly, about what is happening? What is happening in this country? Well, we're going to read through that right about now because this is from one of the people in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, that was attacked, a Holocaust survivor. And she says, point blank, what the hell is going on in our country? 88-year-old, hang on one second here. Let's see. 88-year-old Holocaust survivor who was set on fire by the Colorado terror suspect Mohammed Sabri Soliman has one sobering question after the heinous anti-Semitic attack. What the hell is going on in our country? Barbara Steinmetz was the eldest of 12 children and, of course, a victim who were wounded and firebombed during that attack and was a survivor of the Holocaust. So she said that the terror had left her asking, what is going on? Why are we having these attacks? And do we have to worry as Jews that there could be another Holocaust? She goes on to say, we are better than this, she told NBC News. Steinmetz added that, quote, she wants people to be nice and decent to each other, kind and respectful and encompassing. She said, that's what I want them to know, that they should be kind and decent human beings, she said. Well, Miss Steinmetz, let me stop you right there. It's hard for people to be kind and decent to people who want to kill you because you're Jewish, okay? So, yes, in a kumbaya, perfect world out there, yes, we would all want to be treated as we'd like to be treated. We treat others as we treat ourselves, and whatever that saying is. But the bottom line is, these people have a baked-in ideology that somehow we are evil and that we need to be decimated, destroyed, and wiped off the map, as they have said numerous times. So where does this come from? Well, I think it comes from where I started. It comes from being taught to hate Jews as young children. These young children go to school in Palestine and Gaza, and they are taught that Jews are evil and that you should kill them and you should martyr yourself. Imagine that. They care so little about life that they think it's somehow grandiose to kill themselves in the act of killing innocent people. What happened on October 7th was a horrific event, number one, but more importantly, it was a culmination of appeasement, a culmination of not wiping out the terrorists where they live, and quite frankly, a culmination of a spatter, of an echo that got louder and louder and louder during the last 4 years, in which anti-Semitism started to rise, and of course the Otto Penn administration stayed silent. Not only did they stay silent, they helped fund the October 7th attack. Now, President Trump's in office, things are much different, things are much better, but that does not mean that these attacks are going away. We just saw what happened in Boulder. We saw what happened in D.C. We have seen so many things that have happened against Jews. It culminates, as I said, on Sky News, from the Democratic Party. Yes, I'm brave enough to point out exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from the media, and it's, of course, coming from the colleges and universities, and not just the brainwashed students. The faculty that have also bought into this anti-Semitism. And that's the problem. That is the issue. That is the problem. Thankfully, President Trump and his administration have recognized this. Certainly, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has recognized this. And they are defunding these colleges and universities that are fomenting hatred and anti-Semitism. And God bless them for doing that. But it's not going to stop, as I said on Sky News, until those three entities stop it. They stop reporting on it. They stop encouraging it. And I don't mean stop reporting on the events. I mean they stop reporting on the lies and the propaganda that then foments the hatred against the Jewish people and Israel. It's sickening and it must stop. That's why I said American Jews are arming up. 210% increase in American Jews arming up. But Jews can help themselves, as I've said numerous times. They need to start realizing that continually voting for the Democrat Party, which is increasingly by the day, by the minute, by the hour, becoming more and more anti-Semitic, it's a suicide vote. You need to start opening your horizons. You need to stop living as conservatives and voting like liberals, and instead continue to live like conservatives and start voting like conservatives. That's what needs to happen. So God bless this woman. She had minor injuries, thankfully, and she seems to be okay. But it's a very kumbaya, answer when asked about why she thought she was being attacked. She said, what the hell is going on? Well, you have to look at an issue, okay? You have to dissect that issue. You have to pull apart that issue. You have to look at everything and see the circumstances that caused the root issue. And that's what Jews need to do. More importantly, the media needs to stop lying about it, and the propagandists need to be shut down, expelled, and deported. It's as simple as that. Because until those three entities stop and actually take this seriously, it's not going to stop. And that's the sad reality. So, anyway, next. So it looks like James Comer is expanding this investigation into the Biden health cover-up, the Otto Penn gate, if you will, and now has subpoenaed 5 more people. Okay, so now you had 17, now you have 5 more, so you have 22 subpoenas that have gone out. And so the newest ones are these folks right here. Michael Donnellan, former senior advisor to the president. Anita Dunn, a radical extremist, communist, Maoist-loving idiot, basically. She's the one that during Christmas time, in the beginning of the Biden fake Otto Penn administration, she actually decorated the White House Christmas tree with little Christmas balls of Mao Zedong. Do you remember that? Look it up. It happened. Anita Dunn, former senior advisor to the president for communications. Ron Klain, who literally has been with Joe Biden since he was an embryo. Okay? Literally 40 plus years. I mean, Delaware, in the Senate, as VP, as fake president. This guy has been glued to Biden's ass his entire career. So obviously, he was using the Otto Pen. Former Chief of Staff Ronald Klain. Bruce Reed, former Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. And Steve Ricchetti, former counselor to the fake president. The American people deserve full transparency, and the House Oversight Committee is conducting a thorough investigation to provide answers and accountability. The cover-up of President Otto Penn's mental decline is one of the greatest scandals in our nation's history. I agree with that. These 5 former senior advisors were eyewitnesses to President Otto Penn's condition and operations within the Otto Penn White House. They must appear before the House Oversight Committee and provide truthful answers about President Otto Penn's cognitive state and who was calling the shots, said Chairman Comer. So the reality here is, and I have said exactly what to do. If we want to get to the bottom of the Otto Penn scandal, it's pretty simple. All we really need to do is have 4 doctors do a public, videotaped deposition with President Otto Penn for at least an hour and ask him all different types of questions, not about his fake presidency, easy stuff. Count backwards from 10, okay? What is, 50 minus 9? Easy stuff. And let's get him on videotape. Let's get a cognitive test done, a deposition cognitive test done by official doctors and things like that know what they're doing, neurologists, things like that, and get 4 of them. And then have them all do an accurate, because they can't lie, because their license would be on the line, right? Get an accurate assessment. And once he is deemed mentally incapacitated, you then take that recommendation directly to the Supreme Court and you challenge every single executive order with an Otto Pen, without an Otto Pen, every piece of legislation, the lying Inflation Reduction Act, which all it did was raise inflation. And you basically null and void. You get a nullification of the last 4 years. Because if he's mentally incapacitated, then you know he could not have had the cognitive ability to be able to sign all those executive orders and do all of those things. And at that point, it's easy. Then you start investigating. You convene a grand jury. You start prosecuting every single person in the Otto Penn administration, all the people that had access to the Otto Pen. You go after the doctor, which, by the way, that's the other subpoena that's coming out for his doctor. And then, of course, you challenge all of these things to the Supreme Court. You get the preemptive pardons nullified, and then you have an opportunity to go after these criminals and hold them accountable. It's really that simple. Now, whether or not they're going to do it, I don't know. Are they going to sit here and pussyfoot around and, say all these things and make videos and say this is what happened and nothing happened? I don't know. Hopefully not. You've got Ed Martin, who is the pardon czar or pardon attorney at the Department of Justice. He's the, quote, weaponization attorney. And clearly this was a weaponization, right? So I feel pretty good about Ed Martin being in that position, that he would take recommendations from the House Oversight Committee that would recommend prosecutions, and I think he would do it. I truly do. But again, time will tell. So we'll see what happens. But I'll tell you right now, if they deny these subpoenas, well, then they get the Peter Navarro, Stephen Bannon treatment. And they go to jail for 4 months. Well, we'll see what happens. There's a lot going on. Next. Okay. So Marco Rubio understands the danger from China. Okay? I have said this a million times. I'll say it again. There is no bigger threat, existential threat, to the United States and all of humanity than the Chinese Communist Party. Okay? And I can go through everything from Belt and Road Initiative to their intricate spying networks to their secret police to now the buildup in Cuba of also military installments to the military islands in the South China Sea to taking over Hong Kong for the Silk Road Project, the spy balloons traversing our military installations, TikTok, Temu, the People's Liberation Army, the Wuhan lab, the bioweaponization labs that they're... I mean, I can go on. I'm an expert on China, okay? Obviously, you remember that in the book. They are the biggest threat. But it looks like Marco Rubio and this administration understand that, and they have announced that they are going after all Chinese nationals in this country. All of them. All of them. Every single one. And J.D. Vance said the other day that no Chinese nationals or immigrants coming into this country should own one piece of property at all. They should be completely obliterated from owning any property. So, with this administration finally doing what I've been saying for the last 5 years, shutting down the Confucius Institutes, getting them out of our research centers and our universities, getting rid of the 1,000 Talents program so that they're not stealing our biotechnology and intellectual property and going back to China. So thankfully, we're working on that. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, because not only have I been right, but here's just another example of how right I have been all these years. And finally, this administration gets it. Trump's FBI has arrested Chinese University of Michigan scholars tied to the CCP. They have charged them with trying to smuggle a biological pathogen used for targeting crops into the United States, visa fraud, and of course lying to the FBI. So the print's a little small, so forgive me with my 50-year-old eyes. So let's see here. Here's the information. According to an unsealed federal court record, 33-year-old research fellow Yongqing Zhan, whose phone records reveal that she has pledged allegiance to the Chinese Communist Party, was working with her 34-year-old boyfriend, Zhengyang Liu, to smuggle, it's a hard one to pronounce, Fusarium graminearum, a deadly fungus, into the United States through the Detroit Metropolitan Airport on July 27th. The deadly fungus causes head blight, a disease affecting wheat, barley, maize, and rice, resulting in billions of dollars worth of economic losses worldwide each year, according to federal officials in the United States. Its toxins also cause vomiting, liver damage, and reproductive issues in humans and livestock. Well, that's interesting. So they want to poison our food supply and then do something to make people sterile so that we can't reproduce. Why? Because you people were dumb enough to kill all the females in your country all those years and now have an imbalance between men and women? So what? Now you want to make the United States have the same issue that you had? I don't think so. Not going to happen, China. According to the Detroit News, the charges against the Chinese couple include conspiracy to defraud the United States, smuggling of bioterrorism weapons, making false statements to investigators, and visa fraud. The smuggling charge carries the stiffest penalty, 20 years in federal prison. The roots of the case involving the Chinese scholar and her boyfriend stretch to March of 2024. That is when Liu applied for a B2 tourist visa to enter the United States. No, these people are not coming here for a better life. They're coming here to infiltrate ours, okay? The application asked, quote, "Do you seek to engage in espionage, sabotage, export control violations, or any other illegal activity while in the United States. Liu, of course, answered, no. Oh, well, that's good enough for us. Sure, no problem. Here you go. Would you like some free handouts with your visit and your new visa? Huh? Maybe I can get you a hotel room. I don't know. Here's a voting card already mailed out for the Democrat Party. Here's your ballot. Unbelievable. He arrived at Detroit Metro 4 months later in July of 2024. During an inspection, an officer found a hidden note in Chinese, a round piece of filtered paper, and 4 baggies filled with small clumps of a reddish plant material, according to the FBI investigation. I'll show you in the thumbnail, by the way. Liu then lied when asked questions about the materials, according to the court filing, saying, quote, well, someone must have just put this in my bag. Really? After further questioning, Liu finally admitted that the materials were a different strain of that pathogen that I'm not going to try to pronounce again. Jian made an initial appearance in federal court on Tuesday afternoon and is being held without bond while awaiting a detention hearing Thursday. Her boyfriend has returned to China. From the FBI agent's criminal filing, when Customs and Border Protection officers questioned Liu, he made false statements to CBP officers about the purpose of his visit to the United States and his knowledge of the existence of the biological pathogen in his possession. Ultimately, Liu admitted to smuggling the pathogen and stated that he brought the pathogen into the United States so that he could conduct research on it at the laboratory at the University of Michigan, where his girlfriend Jian worked. So there it is. Once again, another Chinese national coming into this country to infiltrate, to steal our intellectual property, and worst of all, work in our bio labs. You remember that video I did about, 2.5 years ago, where I said there are, I think the title was 200 Wuhans. As a matter of fact, I'm almost positive I put it in the best of already, so you may want to check it out. But in that video, I go through and I name, there's over 200 of these labs that could technically be used as a bioweapons lab. And they're in all of our universities all around our country, okay? It is devastating if in the wrong hands, these people get into these labs and the amount of damage that they can do. So thank you. God bless you, Marco Rubio, for doing what you're doing. He is going on the warpath to get these people removed from our country as fast as humanly possible. So good on that. Next. All right, what do we got here? This one's interesting. So we have a former Democrat, now Republican, who is a populist and is now the head of the entire intel community, all 17 agencies, right? Her name is Tulsi Gabbard, and she is the director of national intelligence. She was also put on a secret list called the Quiet Skies list. This is basically a list in which federal marshals and the administration puts you on a list if they think that you could be a terrorist. Why? Because she told the truth on the Russia-Ukraine war, because she absolutely obliterated Heels Up Headboard Harris in that debate in 20 whatever it was and made her drop out. Could that be the reason why? It was retaliation? Well, she's obviously not a Russian agent. She's obviously not a terrorist. She is the director of national intelligence, and she's doing a phenomenal job. However, Democrat Senator, what is her name? Jeanine Shaheen, is married to a Muslim, a Lebanese Muslim, who, by the way, was put on to this Quiet Skies watch list after he flew, get this, 3 separate times with a known suspected terrorist on the terrorist watch list. Okay? Let me repeat that. A United States Senator from New Hampshire literally has a husband who is a Muslim that flew on our airlines with a known terrorist on the terrorist watch list. Okay? Listen to this. Democrat Senator Jeanine Shaheen's husband, William Shaheen, was put on the U.S. government's Quiet Skies screening list in 2023 after he traveled with an unidentified Arab-American attorney who was on the FBI's terrorism watch list. However, due to her privilege as a U.S. Senator, she quietly contacted the TSA Administrator, David Pekoski, and told her that she did not want her Lebanese husband on this list because, quote, it made traveling bad and he was subjected to extra scrutiny during pat-downs. 2 days later, he was removed from the list, she was given preferential treatment, and he was allowed to continue to fly even though he has obviously ties to people that are on the no-fly list. Okay? So when we say that Democrats like to pal around with terrorists, it's pretty accurate. So perhaps the Department of Justice and the FBI will open up an investigation into Senator Shaheen and her husband. Who is this person? Why is he traveling with this person? And for what reasons? That's what needs to be found out. So we'll see what happens. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about, and it's very, very short, but it's very, very good. Thank you to President Trump's tariffs. Temu has plummeted 58% following the tariffs. And daily users right here in the United States have been using this horrible website 58% less in the last 60 days. So that's really good because Temu is evil. Temu is basically giving all of their products at 75% less. It's all in the book. You remember it. It's in the chapter, The China Syndrome. And the reason they can do that is because they don't pay any labor cost. Why? Because it's all Uyghur Muslims and children, sometimes as young as 8 years old, that are making the products for free in forced labor camps. So I'm going to continue to expose Temu, China, and everybody else. Thankfully, without the website, I don't have to worry about security anymore, and I don't have to worry about attacks because I'm pretty sure they're not going to be able to get to attack on a Substack. So we will continue to fight, but I wanted to point out a couple of those things because every single thing that I talked about is vitally important, and this administration needs to get their act together, and they need to start these investigations, and they need to start indictments. We are getting sick and tired of not seeing these indictments. We are past 120 days, and we have to continue to turn the heat up on this administration to hold these people accountable. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.